this looks good.
Oh my God, this is delicious.
I definitely want to taste it.
All right, and now we've gotten to our plate of the day. Does funny expire? So, we are living in what people call a era of cancel culture, right? And so for those of you who don't know what cancel culture is the idea that once somebody publicly does something that people feel is offensive, that we should collectively stop supporting that person, whether it's stop, not buying from them or, watching their content, and hold them accountable to their actions through shunning them, essentially, right? So, I'm not a comic myself, but I do like to write a lot of comedy. And I find it nowadays, I stumble a little bit because I'm afraid to write something that's super offensive and then no one's ever going to fuck with anything that I ever write or do again. But you guys are like masters at funny. And you guys have been in the game for quite some time. So I'm really curious about where do you guys think the line is drawn with funny? What is the line between disrespectful and comedy?
We just had our sketch comedy show on Saturday, the first one since making our television network debut on NBC.
Which, by the way, I was cackling. But obviously the entire concept on the Pitbull was hilarious, but you being the dancer in the background for everything, I was cackling.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie.
So funny.
When I first saw the sketch that we were doing for NBC, and we pitched several sketches to them, they were the ones that ultimately were like, okay, this is the one we think you should go for with round one. I was like, damn, I have like no lines in this sketch, but Jamie was like, but bring Rachel to the character.
Yes.
And then I said, okay, then she's going to dance from start to finish.
Yes.
She's going to be the curvy, size 14 girl doing a split and dancing the entire time as a backup dancer. I had the time of my fucking life doing that skit.
It was so funny.
I didn't even need lines. But anyway, just this past Saturday, you guys, I addressed some of those moments where I thought, I don't know if we crossed the line, but we were like double dutching towards it. It was one of those because there were certain jokes about being overweight in a certain sketch that I was like, the culture now is very body posy, and so am I, a motherfucker. Right. I don't know what happened in the last couple of years. I have really just began to celebrate curves like I've never done that before. But anyway, hearing it in the funny and the making fun of people being overweight, I was like, I don't know, it doesn't. And then the first show didn't laugh very hard at those jokes. So we were backstage and I told Jamie, I was like, look, I gotta get this off my chest. I love your writing, I respect your writing, but maybe we can swap some of the fat jokes out. Right. So instead of hitting them with 5, we reduce it from 5 to 2 or 2 to 3. And he was like, damn, I feel you, which I respect Jamie tremendously as a writer. He's like, I feel you, but it does change a lot of the context of the script, which would be hard to do at this point, given everybody's memorized their lines and shit. So we went for it, and the more rowdier crowd laughed, but that brought up a whole point, like a whole question in my head of where's the line now? Because the line keeps shifting. As we get older and as there's more and more shit coming out the mainstream media. So I don't know, the line is ever changing. And we gotta respect that line. But for me, the line is my instinct. I'll never question my instinct. It's usually spot on. And I don't have those instinctual moments very often, especially when it comes to hanging with these guys. Right. I've been used to being around men in comedy. You know what I'm saying? And straight men in comedy, you can imagine the kind of jokes they're saying behind it.
Excuse me? What are you trying to say?
But I'm like, it doesn't faze me. But then there are certain things like the body positivity issues that I'm like, that's not a good message. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if that was a good answer. It's like a gray area for me. What about you guys?
For me, well, first of all, I don't want to even come off as saying like I'm a comedian. These guys have been doing it for a long time. I'm just getting into it. I'm just like getting my feet wet. It's a very touchy thing. I grew up in New York City where we used to snap on each other. That's how my comedic
Got an ass.
my comedic chops come from. So when I got with them, it was really hard to kind of do what we were doing because I had to like scale it back a little bit. I'm very raw. I'm very in your face. I think comedy was that forum where you could kind of go back and forth and just laugh at each other and just, everything is a joke. But, nowadays it's like, I just think it kind of takes away from the creativity. And it just, if it's not I always tell them, I feel if it's not coming from a malicious intent, then it should go. But, things are changing now. So you gotta be aware of everyone else's feelings. That's the way I'm looking at it,
Yeah.
You have to, because things are getting very broad, and you gotta look at what other people are feeling, and you have to be cognizant of that.
Well, I think beyond all of this, I think comedy now is in a space where there are memes and there's Instagram, there's social media. So a lot of jokes, which used to be long form, are, translated very quickly. So that puts pressure on people trying to create content because they feel like, oh, how am I going to get a reaction? And then the other thing too is that everybody has a voice. Back in the day, you can make jokes about almost anything, and there won't be people calling you out on it. So you have to be very sensitive of a lot of individuals. I feel like like 10 years ago, like I had this conversation. Wow, like Twitter, we used to say some crazy shit on Twitter like 10, 12 years ago, like before it became what Twitter is now, right? But I don't know. I think it's just about the effort. You can't be lazy about it. You can't go with the quick, funny, not thought out jokes. Because at the end of the day, people, you have to relate to it. And so I think if you're just trying to be funny and put down somebody, I just don't, that's lazy. I just think you have to really, like, a lot of low-hanging fruit, a lot of just easy stuff to say because you're going to get a laughter. Not really, I don't think you should be doing that, so.
What is your reaction to the idea that people say that people are too sensitive nowadays and that, like, I'm a comedian, like, I have to, it's comedy, I can say whatever the fuck I want. Like, what is your reaction to people who claim that, like, people are just too sensitive now?
For me, you had Lenny Bruce, you had Richard Pryor, you had Eddie Murphy.
Right.
You had Red Fox, you had all these guys that went in on every subject to the utmost. And, it kept it, in my opinion, personally, it kept it real.
Right.
And it kept it raw. You can't go, when it's raw, I always tell them, if I'm talking to you real, you can't tell me I'm not real. So, I just come from that perspective. But, again, we're dealing in a whole new world where we're kind of seeing different minds and different ideas, and you may just hurt someone and it's like, wow, I hurt you? Oh shit, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it that way. I always tell them, if our joking doesn't come from a malicious place, let's go for it. But we're very cognizant of it all the time. Even when we're on the podcast, we always think about that, always.
And it's interesting because Instagram is a buffet of different types of comics or people who aren't even like proper comics but are making comedic content. And I, just referencing back to a lot of dudes on Instagram who are Dominican and I'm not gonna name any specifically, but sometimes they make videos that are hilarious because they speak to something that's true to that we're culturally familiar with, but are really inappropriate. Actually, I remember I had seen a comedy show in LA, and it was a bunch of Dominican comics, and I was first of all super proud to be out there and to see all these comics, and then as the content was going up, I went from ha 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 to ooh, I don't even know if I want to be seen laughing at that because I see the joke, I can see why that is funny, but do they see how this is problematic? And I do find that a lot with Dominicans. We joke around and nothing is off limits for us. But how do you think, do you think that people who are making that type of comedy have a shot at really succeeding in a climate like this? Or do you think that these guys should be considering sort of revisiting their content and how they put out their jokes?
Yo, it depends how they define success. Because if success to them is 7 gazillion views on a skit, that's what they call it, everyone sketch, on a skit they did for Instagram, congratulations.
Right.
But sometimes others view success as being on network television. And we had to scale back on a lot of those stereotypes in some of the sketches that we poked fun at because it wasn't network friendly.
Right.
There are certain mandates that networks have. So it really depends on what the goal is. What is the success metric for that comedian. For me, it's paying for diapers. So
Diapers.
Right.
Got it.
Nexium, ANC ointment, that shit is
Expensive, yeah.
And for me,
Diapers are
the
expensive,
Instagram
yeah.
skit is not going to help me pay for those ointments that I need from Target.
Right.
Wow, that's
That's
deep.
real, though.
That's
No,
deep.
that's real.
Not bad
Absolutely.
if I sound a certain way.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
I thought you were gonna speak because you were like,
No. The diaper.
The microphone pressing shit.
The diaper line is deep. I had something, but then that diaper was deep, so that was some crazy shit.
But I do think that I do think that it is worth sort of exploring that because I do find like even as an audience member, like oftentimes we are taking our cues from the person who's like putting out the content. So I always say people don't think for themselves anymore. They wait until an article the next day tells them what they should have thought about the things that they watch. So Dave Chappelle's recent Netflix specials, well, not so recent now, but like that last special, I think he was so eloquent in what he was saying, and I loved it. But a lot of people were just like, "Bro, Dave Chappelle can't last anymore if he's gonna keep making these jokes." Did you guys watch? The
Yeah, I
special?
did.
What did you guys think about the special?
I think he knew, like he is, one of the things is he's very self-aware. So he knew it was already on that cancel culture. So he dipped his toes into that because he's daring people to be like, try to cancel me. Because I think at one point, we've gotten too far. And I'm not going to say specifically who, but it's a point where people are canceling people for them to be like, I call that person out.
Yes.
And that's dangerous because Kevin Hart got canceled for something that he apologized and did years back, but there were individuals that literally spent probably hours looking for a tweet that happened in 2012 so they could be the one to be like, hey. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now that if you do take out of context and you make it a soundbite, people are just talking about that. So to me, I think we're going back now because Bill Barr had a special. Some other people are having specials where it's like enough is enough because it's just getting too far. And if you're calling people out for the wrong reason, then no one's gonna be able to really express what they want to express. And at the end of the day, it's I think it's coming back right now, but it's a little unfair because you have to really put things into perspective and context.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a form of censorship. Straight up. Even though you may not agree with what a comic may say, you're censoring them if you're bashing them or throwing them under the bus for whatever they say. So I believe it's a form of censorship.
And that leads to my next question which is, what do you think is the responsibility of a comic to sort of reflect, the spirit of the times, whether it's through actual satire or through like, even if you're making these jokes that you're prepared to do what? Like if I'm going to make an gay joke, am I prepared to donate to an organization that's working to help LGBT? Like how do you think comics are now responsible for their content?
I've seen a couple of instances. I got to shout out like a sketch troupe at the Upright Citizens Brigade called The Foundation, where I don't know if all of their sketches, but a very strong percentage of their sketches have to deal with just black humor. And a lot of the stuff, and some of the members of the troupe are black. And the first thing they do in the beginning of the show is they come out and they make like a list of rules. They were like, all right, everybody, we're going to make fun of black people tonight. Whether you're white or black, whoever's in the audience, you don't need to look at the closest black person to you to see if they're laughing, to see if you can laugh. You can laugh. I don't know, I love that caveat. So my point is, I think that there's a very articulate and eloquent way of doing it and preparing your audience. You have to know who your audience is, first of all, and know your brand very well, so you know how to, mesh those two elements. But I do think there's a way, look, as comics, we have a power with words, no matter what you look at it, whether we're comedy writing or doing sketch or stand-up or the podcast or whatever it is.
Right.
We have a unique power with our words, and I think we can assemble them in a way that we don't offend people and we respect their choices, but still be the comics that we are.
Right.
True to our own comedy self.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
For sure. And do you find that the internet has sort of changed the culture of comedy? Like when I think of comedy, I still very much think of going somewhere on McDougal Street to a little bar and watching somebody do stand up. You know, even Room 28, like what was really refreshing about the show for me is that I realized it's been a long time since I just went out and watched people do some sketches. Like, you know, and because everything is here now on our phone. So how has that dynamic changed the way in which you guys approach your work, and even in the way in which you receive content?
Well, for Room 28, you know, we took a year off from doing live shows. And it had to do with a lot. We were in Los Angeles a few times last year with the NBC thing. But we got hired to do a shitload of branded content for a non-for-profit organization, which took away from the time that we had to produce live shows. And it was just a bigger signal in that the way comedy is being distributed is really changing. And I feel like as a brand, we should maybe not change our bread and butter, but at least bring in some jams and jellies into the bread basket, you know? And if digital is a way to distribute our content in a way that makes sense, in a way that Jamie can write and not sacrifice his funny and still attach to a brand to it, and it can pay for, you know, a trip to Canada for us to be in the Toronto Sketch Fest, then maybe we need to look at that business model too.
Right.
So I think just like the comedy conduits are very rapidly changing, just like everything else is, the way we consume. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to figure out where your audience is migrating to, if they're staying in the theater scene and off-Broadway theater scene, or are they just on Instagram now?
Well, were any of you guys gonna? I just was gonna say, because she commented on how I guess the consumption of comedy is changing so much, and you have this like these Instagram comedians and these Twitter comedians who kind of like go viral off of, you know, maybe something that they're just ranting on or something that they just said really funny, and then they get that label of comedian, and now all of a sudden they're a social media comedian and they're trying to make, you know, content that's funny. What is your reaction to that? Because you guys as OG comedians, and you're talking about kind of bringing in that field, what is your reaction to people now all of a sudden having this title of, well, I'm a comedian, but you make Instagram videos and you make, you know.
Shirt over your head and then and you play the
I mean, TikTok culture, 6
Yeah,
seconds, you know.
it used to be
60 seconds.
Vine too.
Yeah.
I think there's like I think that's in anything, right? Like you have Instagram like models. They do some photo shooting their models. I think that's what social media has done. Social media has allowed people to put their titles in a bio because they've done stuff and they have a lot of followers.
Right.
For me specifically, I've gotten to a point where I'm not chasing something. Like I'm not gonna, that person says they're an Instagram comedian and they have a lot of popularity. I'm not gonna chase it. I know who I am. And so like at the end of the day, even when we were doing Bago and No back in the day, we did a certain type of quality. So like if I'm going to come out with something, it's gonna be well thought out. And you know, not to say like these Instagram comedians at times you have to say because they do it so often. It's like fast food. It's like it's gonna be in and out. It's not memorable. The ones that are memorable are the ones that you remember 6-7 months. But that doesn't come when you're doing videos every day. That's like fast food. I'm doing a filet mignon, in that
Yes.
not but.
My shit is Peter Luger.
I say that because there's layers to it. You're not gonna get it as often, but it's gonna be something where it has an impact. Yeah. And I think that that's the same thing if you're doing comedy and you're on television, or you're doing something, or you're a stand-up comedian, you're going on a tour. So I think it's just I mean, we can't fault technology, but it is what it is. But like, if you're an Instagram comedian, you're at the pressures of putting out content every single day, and you know what? Unless you're a genius, it's impossible to come out with content every single day and have the quality, because it's just quick. It's just like, okay, what's going on? It's the coronavirus? Let me do a sketch on the coronavirus for a few days, you know? So I'm not criticizing that, because if I had to do it as well, meaning I have to be an Instagram comedian, my quality wouldn't be the same thing. So it's almost like, you know, like, I know from even the Room 28 days for me, when you're doing sketches, you're really doing first draft, third draft. You're holding on to it. You're going on set. You're taking a day to shoot these sketches to then put them out. It's not the same anymore when they're done with the phone. So I think unfortunately, there are people that probably feel like, okay, I want to start a comedy career. I gotta do Instagram because that's how it is. And it's like, no, maybe you could still go that route. There are very successful comedians and people that create content that don't have a following on their social media.
Yo, and I'm gonna piggyback off of that and say that I think it's okay to be an Instagram comedian. These guys are our
Absolutely.
friends.
Yeah.
And if that's your voice and that's your shtick, rock out. There's opportunities to make money with that too, with all the co-branded stuff on Instagram now and shit. But I also think at the same time, the same way we have done our schooling, you know what I'm saying? We did the UCB thing, most of us. We are out there going to other shows. We're learning from our peers. I think that there has to be that realization that being an Instagram comedian is a, forgive me for saying this, it's a one-dimensional thing.
Yeah.
And I think for success, you need to be multi-dimensional.
Agreed.
And you can take that and run with it and give it 100%, but, you know, do the schooling thing. Go see other shows. Learn the craft. Watch Eddie Murphy Raw.
Right,
like,
right.
That all helps, I think, build a very well-rounded comedian. And then those well-rounded comedians will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, just in case this comes out and it's just quoted like that, I was making it the reference of the filet mignon as far as the time and care that it takes. You know, because I'm a fan of a lot of the Instagram comedians, and I love them, and it's very hard what they
I
do.
didn't mean that as shade, but I also
That was comedy right there. That was comedy right there.
Yeah, I think that like there's a certain amount of respect that's and the schooling, like there's a respect that goes behind the training and the studying and like going to see that. So I think that that's where that question was coming from, where this person just kind of like walks in and gets this title, whereas you've worked for it. But that doesn't mean that. But like to your point, they are working, so it's not like they're not working. So.
Yo, my husband is a DJ, but he's an old school DJ, so he DJ'd with turntables.
Yeah.
When we were dating, I was carrying these fucking records, you know, filtering bitches. Like, you want to hear what? You want to hear Through the Brown, bitch? Okay, I got the request. I'll pass it along. But nowadays, there's so many DJs out there because you can DJ learning it through fucking Nintendo Wii. Like, you can DJ with your iPhone. You can, and I always ask him this question. I'm like, how do you feel about that? And he's like, that's their niche.
Right.
It's not, but it's not a long-term niche.
Right.
Because eventually the technology is going to change again. And he's like, I have the foundation of mixing, so I know the BPMs. I know the real mathematical approach to DJ.
Right.
It's the same shit, I think, with comedy and what you're seeing on social media now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thank you guys so much for answering that. I think it's something that, like, as a audience member, like I said, I realize and I catch myself and like who I'm watching and like the people I follow, and I'm like, wow, it is like instant gratification. And then when they're putting out, like you said, fast food, sometimes I'm like, now I'm bored of this person, right? Which is, you know, it kind of sucks because now we're trained where it's like, if it's not instant gratification,
It's like
you're fucked.
A bad French fry. You know, the one that tastes like fucking garbage.
No, but it's listen, I've been watching that even from like when people were putting stuff on Facebook. It's true. Is you get to understand, like, when you're people are watching most of the Instagram, they're scrolling like this all the time. So they'll look at it, they'll take a look, and they go in there, they're following. And you have to understand too is that like people are not unfollowing.
Right.
They're just there. So it gets to a point where when the fresh new Instagram comedian comes out with a different voice, you're like, oh my God, here's my new, and it's just constant on there. And it's, like I said, you'll see once in a while where someone creates a content that's not on Instagram. It could be a YouTube. It could even be like 4 minutes, and that's the one where you will end up sharing it or just saying, "Oh my God," because it's really impactful because there's layers to it. And that's the thing that I really take pride in comedy is that, you know, you could do the quick ones and that makes you laugh instantly, but they're the ones that sit in your mind for a while, that hits you because it is comedy, but there's a message.
Right.
Those are the ones that are really impactful, that if you're striving to go to that next level, these executives and these individuals are like, yo, that person has a message and that person is really putting thought to it. So I think that's the thing about it. But that's the thing. Like, you become slave.
Right.
You become a slave because you're like, oh my God, I haven't put up a video in 3 days.
Yeah.
And if you really want to get even deeper, these Instagram comedians or even anybody that's creating content on Instagram, mental health, you're constantly connected on social media. You can't take a break. I could go ahead and take a break for a while, but you imagine you're getting notifications, you're getting everything. So that's affecting your mental health as well. If you don't get enough likes of a video that you posted that you thought was really funny, that messes you up. Like, am I losing my touch?
When they take breaks, they make the break video, you know? It's
Right,
like,
right,
I'm
right,
going
right,
on
right.
break. Peace out. 3, 2, 1, cut. All right,
Right.
you know, like it.
Yeah, that's my biggest, I think, because like I'm more playwriting. I'm such a stage person. I'm a stage baby, and I now, I'm an actor. I do all that stuff, but like in theater, and everybody's moved to social now, and so it's harder for me to thrive in that environment because I don't like being stuck on my phone all the time. I don't like having to Instagram and doing it. Really, like, Juan is literally my person. Like for Ladies Who Bronche, like social media manager right here. I can't stand that shit. Put me in front of an audience any day and I turn on, but like that live, like even on lives, I'm so awkward. I'm like, what do I do? I feel like a vieja, like, oh, ¿quién está ahí? Like it's really foreign, but I do respect the art of comedy, and I do really firmly believe in freedom of speech and being able to just like, rock out, and like if you need to be held accountable, be prepared. Just be prepared. And so thank you guys so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, guys. So any shout outs? Where can we find you?
You can find me at Nibs0125 on IG. Shout out to Latinos Out Loud. Shout out to Jamie Fernandez, our other co-host that couldn't be here today. Jamie, and thank you very much to you guys for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
My social media platform handle is Wambago on all the platforms, and Latinos Out Loud. And shout out to Jamie Fernandez.
You can find me at Rachel La Loca, Rachel La Loca. We do have some shows coming up. We'll go on record saying that we're doing a live podcast at the People's Improv Theater on March 23rd. So tickets are on sale, yes, from 8:30 to 10:30, guests to be announced. And then I'm doing my all-female hilarious variety show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Theater. We're moving to the Pit on Saturday, April 18th. Our show is at 9:30.
Nice.
And tickets are also on sale at thepit-nyc.com. Shout out to my brethren at the Latinos Out Loud podcast. A big shout out to you guys and all the podcasters out there who are just creating this remarkable brand. Mega brands in the making, people.
Yeah.
Wake up. And also shout out to you guys, because I think you're doing something way beyond just a podcast and just being who you are and your backgrounds and what you advocate for. It's so important because there's people out there that you're like mind shifting, and bringing to another level. I think podcasting does that like no other medium.
Yes.
Facts.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Yes, and you guys can find us at Ladies Who Bronche on Instagram and on YouTube. You can find us at Ladies Bronche on Twitter and on all of your favorite streaming platforms.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And until next time, bronche.